Most illogical. Fascinating.
I am nomad. I am nomad. I am nomad.
Bitter dregs.
Stand by to beam up.
Live long and prosper.
Stand by to beam up.
Most illogical.
Stand by to beam up.
Live long and prosper. Fascinating.
I am nomad. I am nomad. I am nomad.
Bitter dregs. Fascinating.
Stand by to beam up.
Live long and prosper.
Stand by to beam up.
Pain! Most illogical.
Stand by to beam up.
Fascinating.
I am Nomad. I am...
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Coming to you live in Technicolor from the beautiful Hollywood Hills, California. The show where the total retail price of their advice is $0. This is Timelines Talks. Featuring guest musical performers, Metallica frontman, oh my, it's Stars and Garter. Also featuring, hey buddy, you're a tier 9. Look out, it's Automaton 2000. And now, from Spreadsheet City, here's your host, Captain Idol.
Yes. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Timelines Talks, the calm, relaxed, slightly ill version of this week's show, brought to you by myself. With me, as always, is Automaton 2000 and Stars and Garters. Gentlemen, how are you feeling to be on the premium #1 show for all things Star Trek Timelines?
I was about to say you missed it out, you bastard. But then
Nearly.
You got me. All right, yeah.
I'm getting there. I'm not on my
Well,
best this week.
Now that you've given us the spiel, I'm in pretty good spirits. Thank you.
Oh, good. Lifted you up. Yes, okay, so this week, we've had literally quite a few things happen within the last, 5-6 hours, which, as always, where we thought, this is just going to be a dull show. It's actually going to be quite a... yeah, I say dull. I don't say dull. I mean...
Why the hell are you guys watching this show? One show.
Okay, I don't mean dull. I mean as in we're going to have to goof to make up time. We've actually got some things to talk about this time. So
Too much cold medicine.
Us?
Don't even
To
start.
make up time, us? Never.
I promise I'll be on my game next week. This week's not going well. Okay, right, bear with us. So, first off, shall we do our usual thing now, which I'm going to say usual thing. Congratulations to the event winner from last week. So congratulations to SSR Bri, I assume that's the way you say it, BRI, for the win on the hybrid event. Congratulations. You have 5 copies of Captain Solok. So yes, no, very well done. That was an impressive score. Actually, I believe it was literally double the amount of the previous, which I think a lot of that was on shuttles. But to keep up to maintain it during in a Galaxy event is certainly something. But the important part of this is we can actually now check these event scores, because literally within the last hour, the event hub is up. We now have the ability to look through the last, hang on, let me count, if someone's counted it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 events, or 8 and then the latest one. So we can actually look at the leaderboards and where you ranked. You can get your previous rank histories up.
Are you putting this on screen? For
I
the lovely
will
viewers at
be in a second. There we go. Right, this is the event hub. A nice, fantastic. Look at that button. Isn't that a nice button there, Auto? Do you like
Look at
that
that
button?
shade of purple, isn't it
home?
lovely?
I threw up in my mouth. I'm dizzy. I'm feeling faint. Who decided that Crayola wouldn't even attempt a color like that? That is the most loud, obnoxious purple I've ever seen in my life. That being said, the event hub looks like a lot of fun.
It's Kivas Fajo purple.
I was going to say Tulaberry wine purple.
Yeah, you could go with that. Prune juice purple, I think, is one.
Yeah,
But that
there
is
we go.
But no, we have now here. We have everything from the event that's coming up this week, the First Doctrines with Solog, all the way back to this one from the previous Mega, where we can see Mechalobe won it with a wonderful 8 million VP on I believe it's a faction event. Does it actually tell you what event type this was? I don't think it does.
I don't think so, but if Megalob won it, then it's a faction.
It was a faction, yeah. That's kind of what I thought.
Oh, yes, it does tell you when you first click into the event hub. It's right up there.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yeah, there it is. So it's right up the top here.
Galaxy, etc. Yeah.
It's that cold medicine kicking in.
This is gonna.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be doing a lot of clicking today, so you guys are gonna have to take the talking, otherwise it's gonna get mad.
Well, you know what? I'm going to give you a bit of like a medicine in sort of like in word format and say that Steven and Sinner wants to congratulate you, saying, "Good job remembering to shout out the winner. We have a very forgiving audience. They don't expect a lot from us."
Yes, so not only can you look at the top 50 scores, but you can click on Find Me, and it will jump down to where you finished, which is helpful to know how many victory points you scored in an event, and if you're close to a threshold, maybe you can check that out while you're down there as well. But
yeah, I'm pretty sure people are going to use this to be like, "Hey, does anyone know who ranked near 1500?" And then we can start tabulating and getting an idea of what was the average chronoton spend, what was this, what was that. WRG Ben says it's supposed to catch your eye, Auto.
yes, but not supposed to burn out your cornea. So maybe maybe you can just
And yet you're
tweak it
still
down.
causing problems for us. So maybe a rainbow color. That's a good idea. I like that.
It'd be interesting to see if this event hub button is going to stay, because I think that's one thing we didn't confirm with Ben, which hopefully maybe I'll confirm in chat. Is that button actually going to be there come Monday when the event finishes, so we can still check our scores? I have a feeling it might be, but I can stand corrected.
Well, yeah, I'm sure he'll tell us in a minute, but if I recall correctly from the stream with Ben when we were talking about it, he said that they would like to have an event in the active state and one in the planning state, so you can possibly see even next week's event crew, maybe even buy packs ahead of time. I think that's what was something that was mentioned, but that they may still be ironing out the details on that. So
Yeah, no, it would be nice to have it sort of
yeah, he says it'll
secreted
stay up
away.
there.
And
So that is now
Oh,
a
it'll
permanent
stay,
feature.
okay.
It's a permanent feature of our screens
Yeah.
now, so that's
Just
there,
take
which
a little
makes
piece
sense.
of masking tape over the corner of your phone and make sure that that's blocked.
Well,
so
you can just put your thumb
view
over it, can't
properly.
you? You can just get one of those visors that Wayoon has and just filter it out. Make everything
or
else
you can
purple.
just be like, "It's purple. It's fine. It's fine."
It's dilithium purple.
Exactly. 24/7, 365 days a week, Auto. So get the fuck used to it.
365 days a week, is that? That's a long week.
Yes. Guess what? That's how long you have to do. Get working.
Something lighter that happened happened today was an announcement went up saying the Chronoton update, which everyone got a little bit excited and went, "Oh, Chronotons!" But actually, for people, for people who are say you've reached your cap of your chronotons, you've got a full star base, you've got all those collection bonuses, doesn't actually affect you. I think the exact wording is for the earlier players, for people that are still leveling up, there's a bit more of a chron boost for yourselves. So I think we got a little bit excited and went, oh, crons, more cron. Oh no, never mind. More stocked and saved up for all of us, which you can see on my nightmare, on my alt here, which I'll go into in another week. Oh gosh, I need crons, so that's actually quite a bit helpful.
I think the highlights are the chronoton cap before bonuses kick in is still 150, but you'll ramp up. You okay there?
No, I'm dying. Please go on without me.
Swallow the bad targ, I guess. So yeah, a newer player will ramp up to that cap of 150 a little quicker. They also potentially increase the amount of chronotons you could buy with a refresh with Dill, and then I think the other thing is they added a few level up points early on where you'll get additional chronotons. So it's not a hugely impactful change for veteran players, but it should smooth out that curve for newer players.
Well, it's good for chronic re-rollers like yourself, no?
Chronic re-rollers? Did he plan that one?
You know what, I didn't, but it did roll off the tongue quite nicely. But, I mean, to be fair, that is the case. If you say it's not for veterans, well, for people like yourself who tend to have a roster for a little while and then you want to re-roll for that different kind of set of you're going for a Valkyrie crew next time, right? You're thinking about. So
well, we'll see.
this kind of change will be quite nice. It will smooth out the early game for you.
In a few weeks, 90% of the show will just be us talking about our alts.
Oh, we should have the alt show. I've got plenty to say. We can talk
Let's get Prime Lines talks done first.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. But before we tangent too much, I think we have one more note of news to go.
Yes, there was a news report that came out either yesterday or today saying that, and the article itself I don't have up, but along the lines of Disruptor Beam, the former owners of Star Trek Timeline, were, and I can't remember the original wording, but it says they were declaring bankruptcy. I think that actually turned out to be not quite true. Shan put a statement up because Star Trek Timeline still does use some underlying technology from Disruptor Beam, but they are not going bankrupt. The actual phrase, Shan, sorry, go on.
I believe they are declaring bankruptcy, but
right.
It's in the form of debt restructuring, I believe, correct?
Something like that, yes. Shan's exact note says, Shan said, Beamable, formerly known as Disruptor Beam, is not going out of business. The services they provide to us are continuing as per usual. This has no impact on the licensee. The license, I don't think, was a worry, because I think that went over to Tilting Point anyway. But the technology underside, I mean, even if Disruptor Beam did go under, I'm sure there are some provisions to say, well, hang on, we need this to run our game from a separate company. They'll either bring it in-house, So I think it's a little... Don't everyone jump to the, oh no, the end is nigh, quick, we need to... I think, no, this is...
Spin your chronotons quickly! Spin them!
But yes,
throw them all overboard.
Oh, Christ, no. I've got a very strange problem where something on my computer keeps disconnecting, and I have no idea what it is. Anyway, moving
It's all malware, don't worry about it.
It is all malware. So what have we done on our notes here? Everything else. Should we talk about... should we get rid of my game? Should we talk about this? We're flying through this week. We've got to, because I'm going to fall asleep in a minute. Shall we talk about this week's crew? No? Okay.
You know what? What? Wow. You really want to get this over and done with, don't you? Yes.
Are you sure it was just cough syrup that he took? I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. A little something else in there as well.
He drank it with his pinky out, so I thought it was okay, but maybe it's not.
Oh, I have cut my nails. No, anyway, let's not go into that. Okay, let's talk about this week's crew. The legendary crew for this week's... what we got is a Galaxy Skirmish event coming up starting tomorrow. We have Spock's former love interest, the wonderful... I think, can you sing us in with this one, Otto?
The pring, the pring, the pring, the pring. Someone better answer this.
I'm not good.
Hello?
You have a collect call from 2Skiller. Do you accept the charges?
No. Yes, okay. 2Skiller, Dipsec.
That's the best we could do for bits this week.
I had no part in that. I disavow anything to do with it.
I got very excited about it.
Let's rename this episode to Cough Syrup.
Oh. Please tell me about to bring.
Well, She is a TOS bombshell, as I believe she was described by one of our forum no, it was during the Q&A, right? It's like, can we get some TOS bombshells? And I think someone at WRG must have been paying attention, because we've had her, we've had Nona, we had Amanda, who, if you go for, I think Zarabeth was mentioned in the event thing.
Yeah.
Like, it's all like, so we're getting our TOS bombshells for the people who want them. That being said, not everyone does want a Dipsec 2 skiller, so you know.
I mean, every mega has to have one. Every mega has a 2 skiller at some point. Some have more, and you know we've spoken about that. But yeah, you know, you got to have. I think they've got to throw one in there for the crowd that loves them. Don't know where I'm going with that.
It's not Captain Erica Hernandez, so that's a step up.
That is a step up, but it is to bring. She has the Vulcan. She has Vulcan. She has Vulcan. The +1 on that collection, if you're interested in that, seeing as this is the prime Vulcan sort of target, and if you're going to push in I nearly said it then. Recaps.
Good God, man!
Oh, dear. Freudian slip there. Yeah, you know, 5 of 5. What do you reckon?
I mean, this feels like a card for people who really like the art and really want like their TOS bridge, their bridge crew, where you can now have Vulcan Executioner and T'Pring and the 2 Caliphate crew. Like, if you go in for that kind of thing, then that's the appeal.
Sorry. I thought you were going to keep talking. I usually win that bet on this show. No, so her trait lineup doesn't look good. We're not going to get T'Pring variants in the future. So I think the only 2 traits she has under 130 some odd crew are Vulcan, which, you know, we're getting half of an event in 4 weeks here, and then Telepath, which is an interesting one, but again, that one is mostly Vulcan, so we may not ever see that as an event bonus. I may just opt to do Vulcan instead, but you know, she does have the number 2 dip base, number 1 dip and sec shuttle score, so I'm sure if you were to fuse her up, you would use her in certain situations, but without a bonus, I think it's fairly easy to replicate for events, if not for daily shuttles, which she can do with a bonus crew, a purple bonus crew. So I think probably the most interesting thing about her is the episode she comes from, Amok Time, which Trekkies should know pretty well, where Spock has his... Yeah.
I'm just going to keep on doing that underneath while I'll be your soft musical accompaniment while you continue to recap.
So yeah, and if you have it on Netflix or whatever, go back and watch, and you have as Spock goes to slice Kirk in half.
Oh,
I deserved it. I said you're the one that talks too much. We all know it's me.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
No, so they're fighting, and you see some stagehand drew with red marker across Kirk's chest, and in low definition, that's pretty convincing battle scar. So, anyways,
sorry, I'm just laughing at my own joke there.
To be fair, it's pretty great music. All right, you have TOS battle music, you have early TOS movie Klingon. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, no. Which ended up being retooled into Worf's theme, which I appreciate.
So
iconic music.
In the episode, and I clued this because I watched it recently, in the episode Obsession, which is in season 2, there's a piece of music in there. And bear in mind, I'd actually never watched that episode before. And I listened to that one. I've heard that somewhere before, and it was actually reused in the excellent soundtracks for the Star Trek 09 film. There was I can't think of which part. There was an actual little sort of refrain, a little piece of accompaniment where I thought, I've definitely heard that, and that is actually used by Michael, I cannot say his last name, but the composer, Giacchino, that's the one, used by in there somewhere. So, you know, there was definitely a lot of love in that film for the soundtrack of the original series, so it's worth, you know, worth going and checking up on that. So the most interesting thing about this card is the music.
Essentially.
What about okay?
I was going to say the main centerpiece of that episode is the homoerotic tension between Kirk and Spock, not anything else.
Of the series. But bearing in mind she is DipSec number 1, I'm thinking someone like Boreth Pike or Professor Sato, who again have massive bases in those regards and are number 1s in their own field. Would T'Pring be someone that would fill the day-to-day shuttles in that regard, or is diplomacy just too much of a common set for that to be viable?
Well, they do. Like, if you have a look at the top 50 dip ranks, it's a pretty depressing story. It's like you look at someone like Prophet Sarah Cisco and they're like dip base 30, and you go, oh wow, they've been power creep to hell, and it's actually like 20 points off of dip base 2 or 3, because the power gap there between 1 and 2 is so massive, and so many of them have identical ranks, and it comes to the point where I think if you're going after big base dip crew, are you not the kind of person who's just going to duping Professor Scott? Were you not the kind of person who looked at that Professor Sato campaign and then individually cited up each individual copy you got? Like, if you're that kind of maniac for big bases, that kind of makes more sense to me, you know?
I think I know some people that have done that. Definitely know some people that have got 3 or 4 variants of Sato just because big base don't lie. Okay.
Well, I think we bashed on dip quite a lot. It's been so available. Especially as a primary for Gold Crew. But I think at least I have softened a little bit on that this year. This year there's not been a huge influx. But the fact of the matter is, base ranks between number 2 and number 40, they are only about 1 point apart per rank. They are very crammed in there. Pick one, you get, any of them. And recently we've had, Amanda Grayson this last week. We just got a 4 out of 5 mega with humanoid figure, and actually the last one back is back in May, Bridal Keiko, but even she with the shipboard damage and probably that one event per year that Keiko seems to get might even be a better investment. So the rank looks good, but the absolute value is just, it's jammed in there. You can take pretty much any diplomacy crew you can get your hands on. They have solid stats. Sight them up, you're going to get more value than this crew who the score is huge, but she's not much better than what you can get. Okay, it's my turn. My brain is turning off. So now you guys got to save me.
Moving on.
Wait, what did you say last week, Stars? A bad card? What did you say? What did you cough? Card sucks.
It's card sucks.
Yeah. Not the best.
I mean, there's value in there for the people who really want to, if you're playing Pokemon and you want to catch them all, then it doesn't really matter what the quality of the card is. If you love your Vulcans, if you love your T-West Bombshells, if you really like big base crew, like, there's an appeal, but I don't know. Okay, I've got a proposition for you, and it's not the kind that you might expect. So, if you gave her a third skill, if you made her Dip Command set, because I feel like Dip Command would have been a more sort of logical progression, and she was like Voyage, I don't know, 100. Would that be more appetizing, or do you think it would be about the same level of meh for you? I'm curious.
Yeah, I think it would sweeten the pot somewhat. It would certainly make her more appealing to sight up to be part of that Vulcan collection because she'd have some use somewhere. But I know I've seen a lot of people say that they could have at least given her Psy because as sorry, I'm just looking through chat, as Shire Porn says, she outlogics Spock. That deserves a little bit of science, surely.
You can give us a Psy to any Vulcan and it pretty much justifies itself.
It's actually surprising to see one without it.
Well, yeah, you could have even given her Med because she has the psychological mind games with Spock and her husband, who I can't remember his name. Ston, there we go. Yeah, that's a strong Vulcan name.
If this does happen to be a response to people wanting those TOS bombshells, I think a third skill does make a difference because Voyage 100, Voyage 150, Voyage 200, whatever, you can at least use those crew in that part of the game. And so, I mean, consider if they had taken a skill away from Amanda Grayson, she would be very similar. In this case, big base, you could use her on a few shuttles, but that third skill really pulls through for voyages. And this is, if it's a crew you like, a character you like, then you can use them a couple times a week for potentially the next couple of years. So, I mean, I've always been of the opinion that you can't have good without the bad. I think two skillers do have their place in the game, and probably most people would rather see it on some TOS person that they barely remember versus a character they really love, like a captain or first officer or something. So I don't have a complaint with it. Like Namer in chat says, they did compensate a little bit by giving her that huge base power. So you will use her. It may not be, the effectiveness may not be off the charts, but she'll pop up on the top of a lot of shuttle seats, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's spin away and move on to the person that possibly has the most powerful hair in all of Star Trek. We're talking about Boreth Pike, the man that looks like he's going to hunt you down in the woods and find you and kill you. Yes, it's from the episode, and I forget the name. I did know it, Through the Valley of Shadows, where he meets
Yes.
Timekeeper Tanavik and gets the, for spoilers for people who haven't seen Disco Season 2, but he gets the time crystal and everything else happens. And it's a fascinating episode, like Stars, you say, is one of your favourite from that
Could
season.
you spoil that so ruthlessly? Everything happened?
Everything
happens.
Everything happens. I'm trying to keep it as vague as possible because, you know, it's not just that he holds the time crystal. There's a little bit of a, you know, so save a little for the people that haven't watched it that should, you know. Yeah. But it's
It's just in Arabic, and then they
we all
go
know
off
how
on a holiday together.
we all know how we all know how Pike ends up, or does he? But yes, we've got a super rare. So he's super rare for the galaxy. So you will be getting 4 out of 4 for him. All the stars you need, and also nice little bonus. He is a diplomat, which I think is quite nice that they're starting to throw out more super rare diplomats. We had Dignitary Sarek last week. We've got Boreth Pike this week, and it's nice that we're now getting options to try and fill out that absolutely monstrous collection. Here's Command Dip Psi, which is, I believe, EV Suit Pike was also Command Dip Psi. Was he Command Sec Psi?
No, I think he was
Sec
Command
primary.
Sec.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, Sec primary. He was very sexy, one might say.
Hey.
Guess what? It writes itself. I can't avoid the low-hanging fruit.
Can we burn this tape afterwards?
Yeah, guys, don't worry. I haven't gone live.
You're fumbling.
You know,
anyway,
I
so.
got on your case for saying this is this is the get some version of Timeline Stalks. Get some Timeline Stalks. Maybe you don't.
No, you don't.
You know?
Maybe you're not feeling it this week.
This is the quintessential podcast episode. Put it on while you're doing something else more productive, and we will be your white noise. You know.
Yeah, no, just babbling on in the background. So I have plenty to talk about with this card, so by all means I'm going to, because Auto's already filled up the airways. First thing I have to say is I love all of the Pike variants that we have in the game. I even love the Jeffrey Hunter Pike, just because that the cage is absolutely iconic. I kind of wish he was a better crew, but I still love the pose. I love how much of a Superman lantern jaw that man had. The problem with this one is I think this one might have the worst art of the lot. Because there's a sort of almost Jerry Anderson plasticine smoothness to the face. I'm not sure if it's a case of the pose or it's a case of the forwardness of his eyebrows. You look at it, it's a case of it all kind of blurs together a little bit, and it's I think the art these last few weeks has been really, really good. T'Pring, Sarek, they've all been excellent. But this one's a little bit off in the face, but to be fair, that's compared to absolutely gorgeous manhunks like New Eden Pike and EV Suit Pike and Pike. But the actual meat of the card is, as you say, so double collections, including Inspiring, which may end up getting bumped up, may not. It's quite a large collection by this point. Diplomat, which is obviously worth its weight in gold by this point. Discovery, Strange New Worlds tags, I assume. And I think so he's a top 10 command base, so you will use him in those events if they end up manifesting, because new show events have been a bit strange recently, but we'll see. But what I actually want to talk about is the fact that episode is absolutely amazing, and I think that the scene this card comes from is one of my favorites in all of Discovery, and I really like Discovery. I'm a big fan, just because.
If I can jump in for a second.
No.
Let me throw a lifeline to a certain subset of people out there. I won't use the word hate. I strongly dislike Discovery, but there are 2 parts that stick out in my mind through the first 2 seasons. which I absolutely loved. And this episode is one of them. So if you couldn't stomach getting through Discovery for this reason or that, I would encourage you to what's the name of the episode again?
Through the Valley of
Through the
Shadows.
Valley of the Shadows.
To find that episode and this, because I give a great bit of character development here to Pike, which maybe you're a TOS fan, but you didn't like Discovery, then it's worthwhile to learn this about Pike's journey. So if you don't love Discovery, give this one a chance, and go watch that, and Stars will tell you why.
Those old scientists, as it were, from Lower Decks.
Yeah, absolutely. So basically, like a gentle recap of this episode. Basically, the Discovery crew need a time crystal, which is kept on the planet of Boreth, which you might know as the Klingon monastery planet later on in TNG, where they find the Kahless clone. And they find the son of Chancellor L'Rell and Ash Tyler, who has been named Tanavik, and he's the timekeeper who was our mega crew last year.
Fun fact, played by the same guy that plays Cole and Cole Shah. Yeah, who unfortunately now suffers from ALS.
If you want to a really inspiring actor story, look up Ken Mitchell, and I think he did a panel last Star Trek Comic Con. He's a really awesome guy. But basically they say, look, time crystals, they ain't no small shit. You take one of these things, you pay a price. And they go through their Lord of the Rings bridge where you have to put your big ornate keys in the thing. I love that stuff. And then they go into the little crystal factory where they're all growing out of the walls. And I think one in particular calls out to Pike, and that's where this pose, where he's sort of approaching it because he's a bit transfixed. And he reaches out for it, and then he sees, I think he gets a little bit of a flash forward of the rest of the season, but then it jumps forward in time, I think about 10 years, to when he's on the USS Republic, I believe it is, which is the training vessel. And it's obviously a redress of Discovery's engineering section. Don't worry about that. In the great old Star Trek tradition. And radiation plate goes absolutely bonkers. Cadets dying left, right, and center. And he just starts pulling them all out, seals off the section, gets absolutely ruined by radiation. And then he sees himself in 10 years in the archaic TOS wheelchair, that iron lung sound. Yeah, that really foreboding noise.
That is quite creepy, actually.
It's really creepy, actually, because he comes into it's you have the focus on Pike's face, and he's touching it is like that, he can feel it, and then it wheels in behind him, and you hear the sound before you look, you see him really, and he walks forward and he sees it. He touches his own face. He feels what he's going to, the radiation. He experiences it, and he falls back in shock, pain, terror, fear, abject despair. And he's like, that's my future. If I take this time crystal, that is the path I will go down. And Tanavik's like, another boring human, you can't live up to your own history. And then Pike does what I think might be the most inspiring thing I can think of, which is he just goes, you're a Starfleet captain. You believe in dedication and duty and conviction and love and honor. And then he says, if I don't do this, people are going to die, and it's going to be because I was weak and I couldn't accept my future. And then Tanavik, who I imagine has basically the Klingon equivalent of a fanboy face, watches and he just takes the crystal, cracks it off the wall, and seals his fate. And I think that might be the single most heroic thing any Starfleet captain has ever done. So
he doesn't have the hero trait, does he?
He no. Every
he probably should, yeah. So there's a Captain A and Captain B, and what Pike did as Captain A, Kirk would find some way to circumvent the rules. He would beam in a fake time crystal or something, and he would manage to win the Kobayashi Maru without having to get stuck in a wheelchair. So which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the giant grapefruit balls of Captain Pike, or do you prefer the sly cunning of Captain Kirk?
He would reluctantly seduce Tanavik.
Poor Garrett Wang. Well, I'm actually gonna play a bit of three-dimensional chess here, And I'm going to quote Dr. David Marcus and say, Savick was right. You never have faced death. I've cheated death. I've looked it in the face and I ran away from it. But actually stared it bare in the face. No, I never have. And that's why Pike is the superior captain, because he has the balls to look death in the face, to look living death in the face and go, it's worth it. And Kirk took years to come to terms with that.
So, okay, so is that episode reflective in these stats?
Well, not that voyage score is pretty puny, but to be fair, this is the kind of crew I would have out just so I can have an all Pike bridge crew, honestly, or just so I can, like, he's going to see event use, he's going to pop up, he's going to be, yeah, basically, like, even if the face isn't so great, the hair has been captured amazingly. Yeah, no, this is like along with like Sarek, sorry, so many Vulcans. Sarek from last week, like this is just a crew that is very evocative and like speaks to why I like Star Trek as a whole, as a media franchise, because of characters like this who are complex, who knuckle down and do the right thing under pressure and advance things rather than being cowards, which I appreciate.
So they should retcon a scene in the menagerie where Pike Morse code beeps out to Kirk telling him I was saving the universe while you were in diapers, something like that.
Maybe so. Maybe
that sounds
so.
Like an excellent segue to our next crew, because how long were you waiting to set that up?
I wrote it down this morning. No.
So this week's ranked reward super rare crew, Nexus Kirk from Star Trek Generations, holding his axe, wearing his fantastic Starfleet ghillie suit there. Tier 6's finest with a massive event count. Command Sec dip, but guys, what do we feel about Kirk? I mean, Kirks are always event pieces. For those that don't have him, he's definitely one to keep. I have a feeling the last time we had a Kirk event, I believe it was there was a faction Kirk event recently, and he didn't quite make the cut, but I believe that was a large pool. I cannot remember. My brain is mush at the moment. Nexus Kirk.
Well, for the gameplay aspect of the Kirk character, he actually stands alone in the number of variant events. So I believe Jadzia and Ezri Dax are in like second place, but Kirk is such a bankable event name. And yes, his bases are terrible. Probably, pardon me, a lot of people watching wouldn't even thaw him because the bases aren't that good. But with such a bankable name like that, and there will certainly be situations in the future where factions come up and you say, okay, I've saved up my boost, now I want to go for it. And you have 10, 12, 14 requisition shuttles out at once. That's what it takes to rank in high enough to get an extra copy of the gold. So when you think it's that time to blow your load, as it were, and try to rank high in a faction event, names like Kirk, names like Dax are ones that you want to stockpile if you can. Now, that's obviously not his strength. He's it's there if you need it, but he's really requisition shuttle fodder. It's the inspiring collection that most players will be after. If you have him sitting around, he's in the portal, so you can get him otherwise. But getting multiple copies at once to freeze, I think, is a big boon to players who are tight on crew slots. And there's also Galaxy Skirmish is one of the easier ones to rank in for newer players. So there's a little gauntlet viability there as well. If you're new and you manage to get even a single copy, you don't need to rank all the way in top 1,000 to get that gauntlet help. So we had a friend ask us earlier this week, hey guys, what's your favorite gold crew? What's your favorite purple crew? And I wanted to do it justice. So I pulled out one of those, March Madness, the tournament brackets with a 256 crew, and I had them go head to head one at a time down the list to see, all right, who do I like more, this crew or this crew? And in the super rare bracket, I went through all 400 of them, and the one that stood alone at the end was Nexus Kirk. And I won't use all my time in this debate. I'll see the rest of Stars and Garters, but it is the movie Generations. I think most people have good memories of for one reason or another, whether it's emotion chip Data going crazy talking with Mr. Tricorder or, whatever it is. But Nexus Kirk at the end of it, I mean, we are in Kirk's idealized bliss version of his fantasy, and it's him burning eggs and chopping wood, and it doesn't involve a copious amount of green women. So it's not exactly what you would expect, but just the quips back and forth telling Picard he was saving the universe while his grandfather was in diapers, and then probably my favorite music in all of Trek at the end of this is called "Jumping the Ravine." You can find the link on YouTube. When they're out riding the horses, and Kirk finally realizes, oh wait, this is fake after all, and he does make the Pike-esque decision to abandon Bliss and go back and risk his own life. Oh my, to save the universe one more time. It's Kirk rides again. So the whole thing from start to finish it's just such a fun story from such an iconic character. So I do really like this card.
I imagine the odds are against us, and the situation is grim. So I actually have a little bit of fun. So we were talking about these crew just before we came on here, and you remarked on the fact that not only are there no green women, there's only one woman in Kirk's dream Nexus life, and it's the one we haven't even seen before. And that reminded me of the fact that I have read the Star Trek Generations novelization.
Ooh. Is that Alan Dean
which
Foster?
Actually adds, I think it is. Yeah, I think I've actually got it on the bookshelf back
Nerds.
there. You nerds. So that one actually includes, because there was a cut scene at the beginning of Generations where Kirk was meant to go orbital skydiving, and there's like a load of promo shots, and like that was like meant to be about him, like kind of like chasing like that, the thrill of being a starship captain. That was meant to go before the Enterprise B scene. But it also elaborates that what Picard sees with Antonia and that little like cabin, he imagines that scene over and over and over again, but with every single person from his history. So he imagines Carol Marcus, he imagines Edith Keeler, he imagines all of those women that he has actually loved in that same sort of thing. So it's a case of whether or not that's really romantic and that kind of feeds into your view of Kirk as like the ultimate sentimentalist, or if that's a case of, wow, they really are supposed to be to you, aren't they, James? It's a case of, go on with the other. But I thought that was a nice sort of way of reconciling the fact that who the fuck is Antonia?
If Wicked Realm wants to save a little bit of development time, in episode 10 of Star Trek Timelines, we see in the storyline Q appears as a door when he's trying to confound the player and speak in riddles. So if you wanted to create the crew Antonia, you already have the door art in game. All you have to do is whip up a few stats and call it a day. So if we ever get Antonia in game, it's got to be the door from episode 10, right?
I think someone in chat was talking about someone in chat was talking about doing Chakotay's grave from I can't remember which episode it was, and just having the two hands on the grave, and that was it. That was the card.
I would love that. That'd be great. So people are sort of like shouting out different parts that they like about Generations in the chat. I actually quite like Generations.
It's great.
I think it's even more than Insurrection. I feel like it is a hostage to the fact that it feels like an overly long episode of TNG. I think Generations' biggest problem is that it feels like a succession of scenes that work individually but don't make sense, like knocked on one after another. Like the bit on the Enterprise B, I think, is an amazing prologue. The bit where Worf gets his promotion is iconic. I think the bits on the Armagosa Observatory I actually think has like a nice bit of like tension to it. It feels very TNG-esque. Like the fight on Viridian 3 is pretty good. I think that Data discovering his taste buds and like with Guinan 10-4 is hilarious.
It is revolting. More.
I hate this. Please. Yeah, that's amazing. But it's a case of it doesn't fit into a cohesive whole, and that's why it doesn't really work. But that's probably why so many people still like Generations, because they can just point one scene and go, "That's why I like Star Trek."
Yeah, Paul Needon chat says stellar cartography is great. And that is, but before Voyager had 7 of 9 pulling that shift, that scene is great, both for the visual aspect of it and then Data sort of losing control a little bit while he's trying to perform his duty, which,
it's interesting. I love, two things I love about Generations. One is the music is fantastic. That iconic thing, you got the little, the champagne bottle as it's spinning. and just before it hits the Enterprise B, just haunting, just lovely piece of music all the way through. And also the lighting when you get to the TNG sets, because you're used to seeing, you know, full flash, lights are going around for the TV sets, and all of a sudden they changed it to be more movie-like, and you've got these very dramatic lights, lots of shadows, lots of sort of dark spots, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. It's really sort of gives it a bit more of a cinematic feel. There's a lot to be said for Generations actually looking and sounding great.
Yeah, and I also think that Soren is actually a really interesting villain. Like, I don't think he was given quite full time to shine, but Malcolm McDowell is always good quality, and the scene that he has with Picard about, time is the fire in which we burn, I think is really good. Yeah. And I love the conversation that Picard and Soren have on the surface of Viridian 3 about, about the hatred of the Borg, about his family, about time, about relationships, about all of that. I think is really, really good. And I'm really sad, WRG Ben, if you're still still in the chat, we need a better Soren card, because I hate the one we have currently where it sees something going. Arr!
You could have casual Soren in the radio, holding
Soren
a drink.
From beloved Tolian Soren.
I think when he has that conversation with Picard, where Picard just finds out, obviously his nephew and brother have just been killed. Then he's like, right, I've got to go talk to this guy, and he's there in 10 forward and they're having a chat. That Soren could be a good variant.
I want him like when Picard is like wriggling through the hole in the force field, and he's like crouched down right next to the gantry.
Oh, with his gangster gun.
Cool little folding disruptor. Yeah, his gangster flipping disruptor for whatever goddamn reason. I would love that. That'd be
shoots better sideways.
I was just gonna say we've talked in the past about premium art, maybe switching between crew art or something. If they were gonna have animated art, Tolian Soren just holding it, and all you see is the little thing flipping back and forth. Like that would be great animated crew art, right? Okay. Before we recap the entire 2-hour movie,
I was gonna say.
Yeah, Ben is in chat trying to drum up hype for something else. So, Ben, what is next week that is so exciting?
We'll wait.
We'll wait.
No.
We ain't got anything else to talk about.
No, we did. Well,
it's next week, another Wednesday.
Another glorious show of us less on medication and more on format. Let's talk about the Tuesday pack we just had coming up. The third in the triplet of Bound-born Orions. Dinesh joins Maris and Navar to complete the triplet. Another Orion joins us, a sizable dip-eng voyage, but another, as number 2 faction award winner DC Pilot puts it, a skillet. Purely because of the spell check didn't work at the time.
So I feel like green girls have been done dirty in this game, because you have Orion Vina, and then from this episode, both Maris and Dinesh, they're all 2-skill crew, which, okay, fine, you can make a great 2-skill crew. They did not in these cases. They don't have a lot, relatively, they don't have a lot of power, they don't have a lot of use, and it's like, even the casual observer, when you talk about Star Trek, they're like, oh yeah, didn't Captain Kirk hit on green girls or whatever? Everybody knows about Orion slave women, right? So yeah, I don't think it would have hurt them to bump up the usability a little bit. Although maybe they didn't want everyone running around using only Orion slave girls piloting their ships. I don't know. So yeah, this one, Dinesh. Well, hold on. We have a joke in the show notes.
Dinesh, more like depressing.
Somebody save me.
This is the quality content.
I'm looking for new co-hosts now. Applications in the chat now.
We have to put up with you.
Now it comes out. Oh, here it is.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, it will come
Wait till
out.
the pretty girls on screen to distract me.
Okay, so I'm still thinking about Ben's teaser here. What is next week? We have a full galaxy. I remember they announced a collection is coming out during Spocktober. Is there something else that I'm missing?
What's next? It's Galaxy, isn't it? So.
Oh God! Oh my God! It's the return of the dot.
Oh Jesus Christ!
Oh my God!
Hey Marto, how you doing?
All right. So Idle, we're gonna have to get some video for this, because we're gonna get another bit out of this, because Ben is earning it.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So we've got
begging to be parodied.
So for the podcast listeners, So you're so inconsiderate, Ben, not counting them in. He has produced a dash, a dot dash, and a dot. So I'm gonna talk about Dinesh. I'm gonna find a Morse code thingy online.
So speaking of what is he called now? He debuted as Disfigured Pike. What did they change his name to? The 3-star
Tribunal Pike, I believe.
Tribunal Pike. Yeah. So speaking of him, there's this parody on Futurama where there's the guy in the Pike chair, and he's on trial in court, and the judge asks him, are you guilty of this crime? And he goes, beep, beep. And he goes, you said yes, he's guilty. So anyways, that's what I always think of when the dot dash and the...
Apparently Ben was joking. That actually spells TUE or TIE. So this was, I think he was just messing us about, the old kid.
Is it TUE? Is it
could be Tuesday? Ooh. What is next week? Are you ready for next week for Tuesday? Oh, what's happening on Tuesday?
You better deliver on Tuesday.
Yeah, we're gonna set. You've drummed the hype up now. Okay, anything more to say about Dinesh before we talk about the LTOs and then our fun segment?
Extreme Customizer says in chat, Navarre's 3-skiller. She has Voyagers. Yeah, she has a good command base. She's a pretty good Voyager. So I think they got it right for her. We were talking earlier about the waiting Amanda Graysons of the world, and Navarre fits that mold. Where if you love the character, and I do, and you love the actress, and I do, then she has the right kind of power to be usable for almost anyone without being overwhelmingly good or bad. So. She does fit the mold. Dinesh, not so much.
The only thing I have to add is that episode of Enterprise is dire. That's like the
really?
It's like the worst episode in season 4 of Enterprise.
No, I love it because it is a complete TOS clone. Like the cheesiness is off the charts.
That's why I don't like it. If I wanted Enterprise cheesiness, I'd just watch the Mirror 2-parter where Scott Bakula is not just eating the scenery, he's like chewing it up, spitting it out all over his co-stars, and then just like inviting them to do the same right back at him. That's what I want, actually.
Okay, but I think this is an excellent homage episode. I mean, you can just see, because from the first 5 minutes of it, they beam over, and they even have this gratuitous 3-minute dance scene with the girls and the Enterprise men just sitting there getting lap dances or whatever. And it's so gratuitous as to be like a complete ripoff of TOS. So, I mean, they don't do too many of those. You reuse plot or whatever, but this was like a straight, rerun of TOS. So I enjoyed it for what it was.
Maybe my feelings on it would be slightly different. It was 3 scantily clad male Klingons, but whatever.
Give it time. Okay, moving on.
It'll happen eventually. Equal opportunities.
If you guys were only privy to our pre-stream discussion on Klingons, that was something.
I think we would be banned from YouTube for that. Okay, this week we have 2 LTA's limited time offers for crew for the usual price. This week we have Captain Spock and New Eden Pike reflecting the mega event. Captain Spock, he's just been moved down to tier 6, hasn't he? Yes, so formerly of a campaign, probably one of the first campaigns, if I remember rightly, number 1, number 2. Captain Spock is here, command side dip. I've had some good use out of him. I know he's sort of relegated less on my Voyagers lately, but guys, why was he sort of moved down a bit? And would you still think he is, say, someone that took the campaign, has him 4 or 5? Is it worth grabbing that final star?
I mean, he's probably going to be worth finishing off just because he is +1 Vulcan. He is a Spock. Spocks are essentially evergreen. And I think he has a usable command base, which not a lot of Spocks have. They tend to be Psi or Reng or Diplomacy even, rather than Command. The reason why he got moved down was mostly because if you're looking for Psi Command, there are absolutely no shortage of better options. I think a lot of people have a bit of a luster in their eye when they see him because he was a campaign. A lot of people got infused 4 out of 5 out of the box, and therefore they're like, oh, well, I invested in him and he did well for me on my voyages. It's a case of, well, you might have noticed that if you have someone like Tanavik or even Humanoid Figure, they're probably outperforming him there now.
So he was sort of interesting from a gameplay point of view because he came out, next month will be his 2-year anniversary. And there was a big discussion at the time. There are certain crew who are Yeah, Ben said he's not joking. There's a big deal coming next week on Tuesday. So there was a big discussion when Captain Spock came out about how do you balance iconic crew versus iconic or monster stats in game. And you had Captain Spock who came out and he was just okay. Like the bases don't knock your socks off. The void score wasn't huge. Now you will use him a lot for events. I think he still has the #1 Spock command base, which is a pretty common shuttle seat. But his power wasn't overwhelming, and he's so iconic in the movie that I think a lot of people were expecting, huge stats. And names like Senator Vreenak are very similar. Everyone knows it's a fake, and I think the best thing to come out of that card was the soundbite. So, yeah, just because they're iconic doesn't mean that they're going to be powerhouses. And even though we'd like that to be the case, WRG has to balance their profit motives. We have to sell some iconic crew to people who are after that. We have to sell stat monsters to people who are after that. Like Boothby Replicant, while that's a fun episode, that's not in anybody's top 5 iconic of all time. So I think it's just natural power creep that took him down a few notches. And he was a campaign crew, so most people got him 4 or 5. The campaign was after his event, so I know I've heard a lot of names that they held on to him 1-5 from the event. They didn't sign him up because the stats didn't justify. But when you get those last 4 copies from the campaign, you get him 5-5. Now suddenly he's putting in work, and that's often the case with fusion levels. So, yeah, he's a fine crew. He's more of an event piece at this stage. I'm sure he's making voyages fully fused, but the value over other options is not massive just because of his power level. So he certainly has his place. He's a good crew to pick up and justifies it with just enough power if you love the version of him. Now, I'm personally hoping for a refreshed power Captain Spock. I don't know, something like Interrogator Spock, where he's got his hands on Valeris and he's trying to extract the truth from her.
Yeah, torpedo
something
surgeon
like
Spock.
that.
He's loading the torpedo to go with McCoy.
Now,
there are a lot of other options.
I'm going to come out with a counterpoint and say that they should have Wrath of Khan's Spock, where he's got the radiation burn and the big white gloves. Now, you talk about iconic crew. That's probably the most iconic Spock has ever been. I would love that as like maybe an Ensai. I don't know what else you could give him, but honestly, I would want it just for the art of him, like melting. Against the
but we have no more room in Spocktober. We have to have Zarabeth and Captain Pike and all the other iconic Spock adjacent crew. No, that's okay. Hey, you have to save something for the future. No one wants to burn through all the good crew at once and then be stuck with the Dinesh's week after week.
Okay, the other limited time offer card we have, speaking of powerful hair, we have new Eden Pike, the other variant available legendary card that came in he was recently featured in a rerun, or has my brain gone mad? Or is it just
mega event, so he wouldn't have been a rerun.
No, that's right. My brain has gone mad. No, yes, so he is here, Dip Command Psi, although common skill set, I believe he is actually one of the powerhouses in that category.
Yes, he actually has that again. We talk about the dip bases being unrepresentative, like number 13. Like he's a really, really high. I think he debuted at like number 4, and it's only because they keep on stacking those top numbers that he looks like number 13. His voyage numbers have cranked down a little bit, but top 50 Voyager is still pretty respectable. And you could do a lot worse than snagging, I don't know, one of the more sure event prospects in the future from like an LTO. I have him 2 out of 5, so it's a bit more of a risky proposition because I think he is in the portal now. So it's a case of, do you want to infuse him up immediately? Do you want to use him for the galaxy crafting because he's only going to be good for this 1 week? It's a bit of a
Now, events are always a crapshoot, but what I have tucked away in the back of my brain, maybe not even the back because I'm always thinking about it, when we had the Star Trek Day panels a few weeks back, and they interviewed the cast of all these different shows, they had a Strange New Worlds panel. And so I can't see them going to all the trouble. I mean, there's been rumors about a Giorgio Section 31 themed thing, another animated series, this and that. But to have them on that panel, to have all the actors already in place and chat with them, that sort of solidifies. And of course, we can't count on events as being any kind of sure thing, but that solidifies to me a Pike show with Anson Mount, and the whole everything that goes along with it. So, like you said, in terms of event pieces, he is a Discovery crew. If we get another one of those megas, that would trigger. If we get Pike events, he actually, I believe, has had two factions in 2019, during what was a season 2 when he was heavily featured in Discovery. So you'll have chances to use him, and I think I've fully fused him 3 times now on 3 different accounts, because he was the reward for one of the events that I won. So that's like a special thing for me. So I've fully fused him 3 times. I haven't regretted it yet. Even though the skill set is pretty common, the numbers are great. He's nothing special, but the numbers are good enough on their own. And then we had that little extra event probability down the line.
Yes. So I think before we continue on, it actually reminded me of the panels. We haven't mentioned some pretty big news. I think you're both blanking out. So there's pretty big news. So I don't know if the chat might know this as well. So there was an announcement about Star Trek Prodigy, which is that other animated series, which I believe is going to be on Nickelodeon. So it's a bit more of a kid-oriented one. But Kate Mulgrew, aka Captain Janeway, is going to be a main or at least recurring character on that show, and she's going to be voiced by Kate Mulgrew. So
yes,
if you're a big Janeway fan, big good news.
Definitely. And even though it's going to be aimed at kids, I think we're all going to end up watching it, aren't we? Definitely.
Yeah, probably.
And if for those that haven't caught up, I'm not going to spoil at all, but for those that haven't caught up on Lower Decks yet, absolutely go and finish Lower Decks. There are some good things and some more card ideas that happen in there, and I still can't wait for the cards to come in.
Both of your co-hosts are stuck on episode 2, and we have yet to get together and finish them.
You do need to do watch. Very, very, very good. Okay, let's move on to our featured fun thing. Otto, do you want to take us through this? You kind of briefly mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, so I was going through the big tournament bracket, hundreds of crew, narrowing down who my favorite is, and actually, when we first started this, I called these guys up in chat, and we spent 2 hours on a Saturday night or whatever it was, just talking, having some of these discussions almost got serious. That's how much fun it was about, which crew is better, which one do I like better. So I thought, let's do this tournament style bracket for the show, and we can have all sorts of different fun topics. We already do the beholder-meter for who do you want in game, but there are going to be some other fun topics. So I think we are spearheading this.
We are. And chat, there is going to be some participation for you as well. There will be some voting, so you'll get to influence what happens here as much as we will. So there'll be definitely something for. So get your browsers ready. We are going to do something today.
Yeah, we're going to kick this off with an 8-man tournament.
Yeah, I'll bring that up now.
The theme of which is, who would you rather be stuck in a shuttlecraft with? So in round 1, we have Mariachi Q and his very loud trumpet versus Grand Nagus Zek and his very annoying voice.
Okay.
The second matchup is Naked Phlox. I'm not sure you went. That's stuck to your vinyl seats. Versus Fezzik, who is leaking radiation from his suit and smells like an armpit. In matchup number 3, we have Vedic Win Adami, who could not be more, who could not talk down to you more if she tried, versus Ambassador Troy, who's very flamboyant, and in her episode was actually stuck in a turbolift with Odo and damn near drove him crazy. And in matchup number 4, we have Cybok, who just wants to talk about your pain the entire 8-hour car trip, versus Virtuoso Doctor, who will be singing ballads from his new album. So I think if you have those links, you can put them in chat.
I am going to put the first poll in chat now. This is a straw poll link. So hang on, where are we? Follow that. Have a little vote, and we're going to start with Mariachi Q versus Grand Nagus Zek.
So this week, you guys, you viewers, are making the decisions, and we're going to try to talk you in one way or the other. And some weeks we might switch roles and have us decide, and you try to convince us.
Oh, we've got some votes in already.
Well, yeah, I have to point out, so we have these 8 people. Neelix isn't in there.
I think he was number 9 or 10, and he just barely didn't make the cut.
I'm sorry, but Neelix is like, are we not thinking about the iconic moment in Voyager when like Tuvok is trying to rein in his violent impulses, and the most direct way he can think of to test his emotional control is going on the holodeck and trying not to kill Neelix?
Don't worry, this is going to be a recurring segment, so I'm sure we'll have plenty of Neelix in the future. All right, so you linked Mariachi Q versus Grand Naga Zek. Now, this is who you would rather be stuck with.
Yes.
So the less annoying of the two.
So which Zek is this? Is this normal, just brooding Grand Naga Zek, or is this actually the one that's been extra sort of hyped up and optimistic and been subverted by the prophets, or is this sort of just regular Grand Naga Zek doing beetle snuff off the console? Or...
It's the stock standard. Where's my beetle snuff?
Mayhardu, get over here!
Oh, Mayhardu, why do we not have him yet?
Tiny Ron, why don't we have him? Yeah.
Okay, now personally, I happen to like mariachi music, so that wouldn't bother me so much. So I think I'd rather be stuck with Mariachi Q, because Grand Naga Zek, not only is his voice terrible, but he's going to be picking earwax out of his ear the entire time. Not in my car.
And not to mention, like, Mariachi Q, while you can make the thing of, well, why hasn't he's Q, why hasn't he just jumped a slight straight ahead to the destination? He is at least in his most celebratory and happy mood, so he might give you, like, I don't know, a cigar, or a free laugh, or some, like some lovely women. I don't need your fantasy women.
But don't you want tips on how to make the most latinum? The greatest tips from the Grand Nagus himself?
Your Ferengi impression is uncanny.
Thank you. When we do our Star Trek Adventures sessions, which we are getting spooled up soon, there may be some Ferengi impressions coming out there. Let's have a look at
you know what you should do? You should get some Ferengi ears to put on your headphones. So that you,
I love it.
I think that'd be great.
All right, shall we call this one now? Then move on.
Okay.
Yeah, let's call that. Yeah.
How do I stop it? Oh, no, that's fine. So we have a winner here. We have 9 votes to 7. We have Mariachi Q. So sling on there, Auto. Do you want to fill out the bar and we'll move him down?
Yes.
Actually, I want to move that up there. I should update.
I'm working on it. I'm a little slow today. It must be the cough syrup. Okay.
There we go, Mariachi Q.
In match number 1 is Mariachi Q. I'm sure he would play the music for his own win if he could.
Okay, so the next round is... Auto, please.
Flux Au Naturel with the sight gag versus Fezzik.
This is Fezzik. I will get
I can't even see how this is a conversation to be had. Like, Flux is my favorite part of... Okay, so Enterprise is one of those shows where I try and recommend it to people, and it's really hard because I have to say it's a bit shit, but there's some really good bits in it. Because I think that Trip Tucker, I think that T'Pol and Phlox are some of the most quintessential Star Trek characters you can get. The rest of the show is kind of ass, but Phlox is one of my favorite Star Trek doctors in terms of like his bedside manner and his character.
You would be stuck in a shuttlecraft for 8 hours with a naked denobulin.
Like, how awful! You're forgetting who you're talking to here.
Okay, is that your fantasy? Like, if I pick Naked Worf, that would be the easy
Worf
win.
au naturel.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's good.
It looks like Chad agrees with you because right now it's a landslide for Phlox.
I'm gonna say that I probably would imagine that chat aren't too familiar on who Fezzik is.
Is that Juggernaut?
Yes, the Voyager one.
Yeah, that's a great
No.
Oh, was it not?
No. That's a different one. He's the one where they're on the injured or the damaged freighter, and B'Elanna has to beam over and try to fix it.
I think that is Juggernaut, isn't it?
Did I see? Oh yeah. I'm thinking of Night
with the mutated Malon in in the gas who's killing everyone, and Torres has to confront her anger issues because she sees herself in the Juggernaut. I thought that was that was really fun.
Okay, well, I guess we don't have to spend too. This is a landslide.
This is absolutely a landslide.
15-0. Everyone wants to be on a shuttlecraft with a naked denobulin, I guess. So
my case was too convincing.
I'm going to go ahead and update that score. And Phlox, every bit of him moves on to the semifinals.
Okay, I'm not going to
Optimism, Captain.
So who we got? We got Vedic Winadami. Winadami versus Ambassador Troy, and
now this Troy, I already kind of gave you the brief version. She gets stuck in a turbo lift with Odo, he has to revert to his gelatinous state or else he'll lose cohesion. And she's been harassing him this entire episode. So he's sitting in the corner. He's like, "Don't look at me." He's got his back to her. He's like, yeah, he's very gruff in this episode. And he ends up pulling into her. She holds up her dress and he pulls into her dress, and he does soften a little bit by the end of it. But
well, you're forgetting how she manages to convince him to do it, because he has like his makeup deteriorating and he's like, "I refuse to be like this in front of another person." And then she takes off her wig and like she's like, kind of holding it. She's like, it's it's about, you can be whoever you want to be in front of me. I'm not actually going to judge you. And like that's where I love that relationship. Like the Odo and Troy relationship, I thought was such a, because they do that quite a bit in early DS9. They bring in like a TNG character, like they did it with the Duras sisters, they did it with Q and Vash, and I think the Troy Odo connection was something that they struck on, and it worked so well. Because that other, I think it's like a season 4 episode where I think the A plot is Jake is getting mind vampired by some old
oh God, I hate that.
But the B plot, lady. But the B plot where like Troy has to get Odo's help getting out of a marriage, and and Odo realizes, oh, I do actually feel for Alexana. That's a really nice and soft and warm and happy like part of the episode. I really love that part.
Man, I'm just thinking about Jake is like sitting down writing. She's got her hands all over his head, and she's like sucking the life out of him
with the straw and everything. Cellular peptide.
When do we get like Crusher drinking Riker's brains out with a straw?
That's a fusion card.
Oh, that's got to be a recurring mega or something.
Okay, this is looking like a landslide.
Another landslide. Apparently, everybody hates Vedic Win.
2 right.
Oh,
14-2.
The prophets, my child. I have to say, like. What's her name? She's Nurse Ratched.
Oh yeah, I forget her name. That's one.
Absolutely incredible actress. God, what a hateable character. Oh.
Okay, so that's we have our third contestant moving on.
Okay, so we've got Cybok versus Virtuoso. Can't spell Virtuoso Doctor.
Now, I actually rewatched Virtuoso Doctor's episode, funnily enough, titled Virtuoso yesterday. So I think he did all the singing for that episode, Robert Picardo. So I like the episode. I like the character. I'm not sure I could handle 8 hours of opera stuck in a shuttlecraft with Doctor.
Now, see, I'm going to come out with the opposite angle. I really like Cybok as a character. I think that while the trope of Spock has another hidden relative it is a bit old by this point, Cybok is such an interesting take on Vulcans, of completely free and open with his emotions and happy to help other people with them. And I think what I like the most about his character is that what he does isn't necessarily brainwashing, because it is actually genuinely therapeutic and does help people get through their pain. And I think that scene where he visits Kirk, Spock, and McCoy in the weird galley room, and he shows them, McCoy's father dying and Spock's birth, and then Kirk's like, I need my pain. I think that scene is like, that's worth the price of admission for watching Final Frontier, because it's genuinely a really good scene.
Is he paying you for this or something? I don't think it's worth watching Final Frontier for that.
What, are you telling me that the three-breasted Catwoman wasn't your highlight of the day?
No, it'd either be Scotty banging his head on the roof, or Shuckery at the end.
I know this ship like the back of my hand. Dong.
Are we not going to talk about Naked Uhura as well? How demeaning and awful that
Okay,
was?
okay. Let's keep this a little more tightly focused.
Okay, so we're looking
This was a little closer.
Yeah, that's close. I was watching it go up and down, but we're looking like Virtuoso Doctor wins 10 votes to 5. So I'm going to say that'll be the winner there.
See, because normally I love the Doc. I think he's a great character, but God, he was conceited in that episode.
Okay.
Oh, come now, Catherine. It's not such a big deal.
So
I didn't know we were on a first name basis.
first semi-final, Mariachi Q versus Naked Phlox. So.
And in the lower part of the bracket, Ambassador Troy versus Virtuoso Doc. I guess I got to be a little more careful. I just shuffled the seats this time. We had a few lopsided laughers of a competition, so I think we'll finish the rest of this bracket next week.
Oh, will we? Okay, I just posted the link. Hang on, remove. We'll do that again next time. I didn't realise. I thought we were doing this all this week.
Message retracted. No, that's fine. We got to leave them wanting more.
Okay,
right?
that's cool. We'll remember that. We'll carry on with that one. But yeah, that's an interesting format. I think we'll definitely be doing a lot more of this. I think this is again, we spent about an hour and a half, nearly 2 hours, like going through this list, and it was really fun. It was really good.
Yeah.
Well, it just kind of reveals a lot about what you like in Star Trek and what your favorite episodes are and what your favorite characters are, and it says a lot about the person as well.
Yeah, I mean, at one point I took Timothy over First Officer Burnham. Now, if you had that behold choice in game, you'd have to be crazy to do that. But in this case, I just love Timothy's episodes, so I took him over First Officer Burnham. Yeah, you can go to
Another good Loxana Troy episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, aren't they all? Challenge, CHALLONGE.com. You can make your own brackets up to 256 crew. Yeah, just if you want to treat yourself to a little self-exploration, go there, throw in a bunch of names, find out who you really like. Maybe it'll even help you with citation decisions if you're really paralyzed.
And for everything else, there's Mastercard. No, I was going to say I started that sentence and I didn't end it.
Now, if you had had that prepared in advance, you could have said for everything else there's Barclaycard and then
Damn. You need to host the show when I'm like this, I think.
Next week. Yeah.
And I think before we all collapse in a pool of inebriety, I think it's time for us to say goodbye. And we'll see you next week. Next week, hopefully, we'll have some more news. We'll talk about next week's event. We will do some more of this. We'll go through the semi-finals.
Big day on Tuesday. We were promised
apparently
Morse code.
Yeah.
The tractor beam finally arrives.
It's just how quick you were with that. It's just like,
These
it's
last 15 episodes have just been building up to that joke by Star.
That's it. We're done. From myself, from Auto, from Stars, we will see you next week. Goodbye.